Uh, okay, the idea of the BEwell, Kayla, was business entrepreneur wellness. So it wasn't BEwell as in you personally be well, but it was actually bringing your business knowledge, bringing your entrepreneurial mental well-being to perform well in what you do. Okay, so this was my journey, because my journey of running my business for over 20 years was focusing on the business and not on my personal well-being, my entrepreneurial well-being. And so there were many things that were out of control. So my emotional intelligence, my interaction with people, with my habits, with my my time management, energy management, everything was just out of sync. And so I was just running on automatic. And so only when in about 2015 it was when I stopped, because a very close friend of mine passed away after a year of suffering, a very young guy as well. And I got a bit lost as well, trying to ask myself, what's this all about? Why am I running like this? And why am I feeling all this overwhelmed? I was feeling a bit burnt out. I was feeling that I was on my own. There was no one else to help me. So I stopped. And that's when I stopped and I began the coaching, the personal growth journey. So from one course to the other, mindfulness and life coaching, business coaching, all sorts of things. I took it on myself, and then I understood that I was focusing only on business and I wasn't focusing on myself enough.
Yeah.
So this was the awareness, the understanding that came to me, and I said, well, okay, so this has been going on since October. I thought I'll bring this to my connecting and my contributing. That's what I want to do. Mm-hmm. I want to contribute and I want to help people. So I created this space, and in this space we're going to have people like yourself, experts on business or mental wellness, coming in and speaking for like 20 minutes, half an hour on how we can perform better in life, in business. And then after that, if we have enough participants, we can either go into breakout rooms and they can go deeper into the subject, asking each other questions, or if there's only a few of us, we can stay here in the main room and we can continue the discussion on, we want to take away 1 hour of value. And so from your expertise and questioning, we can maybe come to some sort of a good hour spent together. So this is what the BEwell webinar is all about. So it's very informal, and we're just sharing our experience, we're sharing our know-how, and trying to grow together.
Cool. Okay,
so that's why I just put you in the picture of what's happening. So when someone comes onto the BEwell, what's it all about? I tell them this is what we're doing. And we've had people talking about finance, we've had people talking about mindfulness, we've had people talking about brand design. So they've also been very technical, but they've also been very personal experiences. So we're trying to bring it all together to help us actually just perform better in everything that we do. So that's what the BEwell is about. Hi, Michelle.
Hello, I was just listening. That sounds lovely. Very, very nice spiel there. I like it. Morning, Kayla. Morning, Gary.
It's really good because it's also in line with what I'm trying to do. Is like, my connecting, which I've always neglected. I've always neglected connecting because I don't like it. I'm quite happy on my own. I'm a bear on my own. And so it's helped me connect with all sorts of people globally, not, from Pakistan, Dubai, all over the place, basically. And it's also my contribution, because I feel like after all these years of running my business and having relative success, let's say, I can give something back. And so by my volunteering that I do outside, let's say physically, I can also do this digitally. Why not? And so this is by bringing people like yourself, Kayla, and other people to the webinar. And then we just contribute what we know to help other people to grow. So that's all in line with exactly where I want to be and where I'm going. So that's what it's all about. I think we've got a few other people coming in. 1 minute, just a few other people, because 2, 3, 4. Oh, we've got quite a few people coming in. So there might be some people just coming here, just listening, not talking, but that's fine. So I don't know. So we brought Kayla here, Dhankhar, the energy management. We're going to talk about energy management rather than time management, because everyone talks about time management. So do you want to introduce yourself, Kayla, and maybe then we could start a little bit?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Kayla Dhankhar. Some of you know me. I am a mental fitness coach, as well as like an energy management coach. And yeah, I like to look at everything through the lens of energy, both like the energy body and how we can best utilize that, but also like what gives energy versus what spends energy in our day-to-day life. So that's what I wanted to kind of just give a new lens to how we look at productivity in the entrepreneurial world or the business world. So that is what we're going to talk about today, and it'll also give you a chance to reflect a bit on your own day-to-day and where you spend your energy and where you recharge. So yeah.
Yeah, I was looking before when we were talking about energy management. I don't know. I put energy management on Google, and what came out was energy, as in managing your energy in the house, like energy of electric and gas and so on. And I said, oh no. We're looking at personal energy management here. So let's be clear on that as well, because we did put down energy management. Someone might just think how to sort of save on your bills.
Yeah, I mean, you can also do that. Perhaps it would be, you could use the same matrix, maybe. We can see at the end of the session, what do you think, if you can use the same matrix or not?
Yeah, exactly. Looking at saving on your bills, but saving on your health bills.
Ecco lui che già era lo stesso, che non serviva una segretaria, doveva parlare tra di noi, ma di.
Okay. You still there?
Yes, sorry, I was just hearing someone speaking in Italian, so I thought maybe.
I think someone they left their mics on. Okay.
Okay. I thought they were talking to you about something. I don't know.
Insulting me. I don't know. Okay. So tell us a little bit about what are we talking about here? Managing your energy and not managing your time, or what are we talking about here? What is this?
Yeah, so today I really wanted to just share 3 ways you can improve your energy and impact. Just really quick and easy, just 3 things we can do. So shall we start?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So before you improve your energy and your impact, right, you kind of need to have an idea of where you're already spending your energy, right? So you need to start first evaluate what you are doing. So that's the first step. Is it okay if I share my screen?
Yeah, I think I have to make you the host, don't I?
Or the co-host if you don't have it set that way. I just want to share this little chart. It's a simple chart. Everybody can just draw it on their paper, like with the cross. But if you just see it, it will be easier than me trying to explain it.
I think I have to make you change the host.
Sorry, Gary, I should have told you before. I made a couple of slides just for visual people.
You're the host now, I think, Taylor.
Oh, lovely. Okay, so this is just a quick little matrix. So you just need to know on the top row, what is low impact versus high impact. And then on the side where your battery is charging and where your battery is draining. So this is an example of where somebody might start. So they listed out what each of these things are and what percentage of their time they spend in this low impact battery charging, low impact battery draining, high impact and charging and draining, right? So when you see here, obviously, ideally, we want to put most of our activities in the high impact battery charging area, right? And you might be asking, okay, what does high impact mean? What does all of this mean? So it's really up to you. If you are starting out, you may define high impact as, does it result in a new client, right? If you are already very established, it may be, how do I reach the most community members? So you define for yourself, what is the impact that you need to make right now? What is it that you most desire as your impact? And you have to get really honest with yourself about the tasks that you're performing and where they land in this matrix, right? So this is about what you're doing. For a coach, this might be about how much time am I actually spending coaching? And do I see that as high impact? Is it battery charging for me? Is it battery draining for me? Some other things you might be doing as a coach are like, posting content or hosting webinars. And then you decide, where does that go on this chart for me? So we're going to have some time in this call to make this chart for ourselves. But does anyone have any questions before we leave this page? Do you understand the chart and how it would be helpful?
So can you give us another example of a low impact activity?
Yeah, so like, for example, say I own your language school, for example, and I'm spending all of my time responding to Facebook chats about the Italian language. And I'm just like engaging with people and telling them, oh yeah, this is where you can find this, or this is how you do that. But for me, that might be a low impact part of the day, right? I might be able to easily delegate that to an intern or to somebody else on my staff. Even if I might enjoy it, I have to admit to myself that maybe one-on-one talking to people on Facebook chat is not a high impact option for me if I'm a business owner, if that makes sense.
Right.
Or it could be, it could be that you are spending a lot of time creating content for a blog, but then when you look at how many people are reading your blog and then going to your business, the impact isn't there, it's not connecting. So you can start to, it's almost like you can start to take things off of your plate because you realize the impact they're making is not even high enough to warrant the energy you're putting into it, if that makes sense. So the first thing you're going to do when you see this is decide, is what I am doing actually leading to an impact? And can I actually pare down what I'm doing so I have more time for the things that do make an impact?
Right, right. Yeah, I can relate to that. I think that sometimes when, as an entrepreneur, the owner, you tend to sort of do so many things, but really what is making the difference or what's the impact, the high impact, a few things. It's to evaluate that, to assess that, where are you making the difference? Definitely.
Yeah, so it's the what you are doing. So maybe some of you already have thought of something like, oh, I'm doing this all the time and it's not making an impact. Has anyone had that experience just in this 5 minutes? Yeah, I see some head shaking. So the idea is just make a note of that, put it on your chart. If you just draw this little cross on your paper, you can make your own chart, and then we'll look at our options in a bit, what we can do with that. So another option, so some things will be in this low impact battery draining area. Like for me, this letter C here would be like doing my finances and my taxes and my invoicing. And unfortunately, I can't just like throw that out the window and say, okay, I'm not going to do it then. It's low impact, it's battery draining, right? So what do I do about it? Instead, I get to change the how I'm doing it, the how I do things, right? So maybe that means I have to do some mindfulness practice before I sit down to do my finances. If you know the positive intelligence model, which so I know some of you do, it's about getting into the sage mind. It's about activating that part of your brain that sees everything as a creative opportunity and a gift. So you get into that phase before you sit down to do these things that might not be your favorite, that might not be the most energizing. So instead of changing what you do, you can change how you are doing those things. If they cannot be delegated, if they cannot be removed from your plate. This can be a big challenge. And sometimes it actually requires putting that time in your calendar. So like I'll put my time in my calendar to do my finances, and then I put a time before it and remind myself, you're going to have to do some mindfulness, some grounding, some get yourself in the energy space to do that before you start. Because if I start with this energy of like, oh, this is terrible, I hate doing this, oh, it's going to take forever, and I'm just like in this whole contraction mode, then that's the experience I'm going to have. And it's going to take me a lot longer. And afterwards, I'm just going to be exhausted, right? I'm going to spend all of my energy on that. And that's not what I want to do. So I spend some time getting heart-centered, asking myself, okay, Why is this important to me? What is it? What's my real purpose? Get into that energy that makes it all worthwhile. And then I can do my finances or my taxes or whatever it is. So you can change the how. So we have change the what or change the how so far.
So Kayla, what happens when other people try to drag you into all sorts of activities that I always put myself as the example. I feel like in this moment, in this particular moment of my my business, is I'm being dragged into different activities where I'm not making an impact, but the others feel that they have to involve me in all these activities. So I don't know where I'm actually having an impact, but everyone seems to be just said, oh, let's talk about the bank. Let's talk about the resources. Let's talk about the customer. Let's talk about the marketing. So you're doing everything. And so what can you do to sort of get that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that if you can change the how you do it, it will lead to the next part, which is to reallocate the amount of time you spend on these different tasks, right? So if you realize that, okay, my team is going to require me to spend at least some amount of time on this. They're not going to let me change that I'm doing it, that I'm not doing it, that doesn't fit the team. And maybe I can't get it completely off my plate, but if I can do it from that positive energy, first of all, but also decide the amount of time that's actually reasonable for my schedule. So using this chart can really help you to see, maybe you want to say only 5% of my time can be spent on this. So that means these meetings need to be really clear, really effective. It needs to be organized in a certain way. And that's going to come from you when you're in your most present and mindful state, right? It's not going to come from a state of frustration when everybody's bombarding you. You can't create the most optimal scenario for yourself. So the last thing, number 3 in this is really just to rebalance the time allocations between activities to create the optimal mix for you. So I don't know what that will look like. Maybe it looks like you only talk about this once a month. Maybe it will look like you touch base on it for 10 minutes every day, but you really open your mind to the opportunities and the options you have about reallocating the time to best utilize your energy based on your team. So using this matrix, when somebody asks you to do something, you can quickly look on the matrix and say, okay, where does it fall on this? And how much time am I willing to contribute to this activity based on this matrix of where my impact is? And then it might even be dividing it into all 3 of the options, the evaluating what you're doing. Some of it you might offload, how you are doing it, you may change, and reallocating time. You may do all 3 because that's a big area of stuff. Marketing is huge, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's just sometimes, I think it's just stopping and becoming a little bit aware of where you are and what you're doing, and not just getting into the flow, because it's very easy to get caught up with all of that. Because when you're jumping from one thing to the other, it's very easy. You also feel maybe, I don't know, where's that feeling of being needed also pulls you into that, because at that point you think, well, yeah, they need me. Do they really?
Yeah, and that's where the mindfulness comes in, right? If you get really mindful, if you ask yourself this question, do they really need me? And then you get really mindful, you'll be able to feel in your body, is this my ego? Does that feeling diminish as I get more present and here with myself? Or does that feeling expand and say, yes, they really need me when I'm more present in my body? So you get those answers to, is this my ego or do they really need me, by getting present in the moment and changing that energy where you're coming from. So if you're coming from ego, of course, you feel like you need to be in every single thing that happens around you, right? Like you have that fear of missing out because the ego is like, I need to control, I need to control, I need to control. But if you get into the moment and lead with your heart, you may see like, this is an opportunity for this person to take that role, and I could have some space to do this other thing. Or you may see opportunities to help your team grow and expand their capabilities and also give you space at the same time. If you take the time, use the awareness and come into the moment in the present and change how you're coming at it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think so. It's just that sometimes people just give you their tasks. Maybe they're afraid they don't want to speak up or whatever, and then you've got to be aware of your ego and not take it on yourself as well. I think it's this separation of tasks, isn't it? So you I'm playing a role in running my business, and I should know where to stop. And then someone else should understand where what their role is and where they should take it on. And so that's important.
Definitely. And once you can do that, once you can show people, look, this is where I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to empower somebody else to do this task, then that's a great model for your employees also, so they can do the same for their students even. I mean, when you think about teaching a language, that's what we do, right? Instead of just jumping in and correcting somebody, you might ask them a question to have them reframe what they said so you can understand better. It's the same in our business, right? We just reframe things so that we can empower other people in our business around us and empower ourselves to have more space for ourselves, because as entrepreneurs, it can, I mean, the basic tendency, right, is to control everything and then burn ourselves out. So it's really important just to take that moment to evaluate where we're spending the energy. And it's an opportunity to empower other people, right? Sometimes we might see it as like, oh, I'm offloading my work onto somebody else, but they may see it as like, wow, the boss trusts me. I have all of this responsibility now. I'm expanding my resume. You know, it's an opportunity for everyone if we can do that. So, yeah. So basically, I'm going to share the screen again. I just wanted to see people's faces up close, but this is what we want to do. It's to slowly move our chart until it's more and more high impact, high energy. And you're not going to do this in a day or a week. In the training, they tell us it can take up to a year to really get your tasks all up into this high impact and really optimize where you're at. But there is a nice process. So today we can spend some time looking at the creating our transition strategy. So just thinking about what is the activity, how much time do I currently spend on it, and what is the percent of time I would like to spend on it, what would feel better. And then we can begin to describe the strategy. So maybe that strategy would be to delegate the task to somebody else. Maybe that strategy is to build in time to get into my, my Zen state before I do the task. Or maybe it's about just, maybe it's even improving my effectiveness. Say I need to read 1,000 pages a week. Maybe I say, okay, I'm going to optimize my reading skills so that I can do it in less time. There's limitless possibilities of what you're going to put into that strategy to enable the change. It's really what fits for you. So you can use these three steps that I've talked about, that change the what, change the how, rebalance your time, or it could be something totally out of the box that I've never heard of. And that's also cool.
Yeah, I was just looking at this and reflecting on, anyone can jump in. Anyone feels like they want to bring in their personal experience, please jump in. Okay, it's all free. It's all free. It's a free for all, let's say. And so I was just looking at the activity that, again, in my business that I don't pay enough attention to, and it's the financial planning. It's the financial aspect that's causing all this struggle at the moment. And so, current is very little. I don't know in percentage. I don't know how to give that. When you say percentage there, Kayla, what does that mean there? Percentage in a day, in an hour, in a week? What does that refer to?
Yeah, it's really up to you of how you like to optimize. So if you want to optimize your day, then you just, maybe for the first few days, you're really just observing where you're spending your time and just jotting down like, wow, I just spent 2 hours answering emails, or, wow, I just spent, the whole day doing financial stuff and I didn't even realize that's part of my pattern. So in the beginning, you might just be observing what this looks like. You may not be able to do it all in this session. It's just to start opening our eyes to this whole idea of energy and where we're spending it. So it's up to you. You can do this on a weekly basis. You can do this on a daily basis. You could, if you're using it with your teachers, you could ask them to look at a class by class basis where they're spending their time and energy. It's really, it's moldable. We can change it for whatever works for us.
And then obviously you have to put down a plan. Then once you actually how much time you're giving, how much what percentage you're giving, what you want to give, and then you have to actually take away other activities. I imagine if you're full.
Yeah. So you change the what, you change the how, or you change the amount of time. Those are the three things you can do. So it's very simple, it's very straightforward, right? So once you write down all those activities, you may realize, you know what, I have a Facebook page. It's never resulted in any clients. I don't know why I have this page. I spend this much time a week on it. I'm just going to delete it. And then I take those minutes I have and I decide where do I want to spend them? You know, it's just like balancing a budget, but we're doing it with our time. So also you need to know how much time do you want to devote to your business, right? And you may realize here that the amount of minutes that you have in this list is greater than the amount of minutes that you want to spend working in a day or a week. So it's also to help you see where you're overextending yourself. The first time I did this, I have to say, I was shocked how many things I expected myself to be doing on a weekly basis. I was like, there aren't enough minutes in a week to do all this. And every week I'm beating myself up over not getting them done. So I just had to change my expectations, right? And then things shifted a lot. Yeah, Alessandro, you wanted to chime in, but just come off mute there.
Well, good morning, Kayla, and thank you for this, for your participation. I was wondering, because it's not very easy sometimes when you, especially when you start something new, and you sort of allocate some amount of time on doing something like, let's say, marketing or looking for new clients. And of course, you're energized at that point, so you're actually charging your batteries. But it comes to a point where you don't see the results right away. And so gradually you're wondering, well, how much impact am I really doing? Am I really having on what I'm doing? And so how do you, and we know that we have to measure some time, we have to give it some time, but how much? I mean, when can I say that my activity is actually not doing anything, it's not producing anything, or it's just that I have to wait a little more?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an excellent question, and one that I think that everyone will have to dive into a bit for themselves. But I can say for me, the first time I did this activity, I was very much like, I was activated. I was like, yes, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get so productive. Everything is going to work out so great. And then it was like a couple of days later after meditating, and I pulled out my list and I was like, my gosh, I was completely lying to myself. Like when I'm in a more calm state, the answers I gave were totally different. So I think it's really the journey of observing what you believe and then seeing how it changes over time. So it's not an activity you can just sit down and do once and it's done. Unfortunately, there's a journey of looking at it over time.
So you keep on updating it.
Yeah, maybe you look at it in a month and you're like, you know what? I really thought this thing I was doing was making a big impact. Maybe I'm going to move it closer to that medium impact line until I see in a month from now if it's really panned out to anything. And then if it hasn't, I might move it again to the, to not making impact. Or maybe next month I will see all the results and I'll put it back in the high impact. So it's like it's a experiment, it's a journey, it's just another lens to look at what we are doing with, to give us more awareness to where we are putting our energy rather than not looking at it, because that's usually my strategy, is like out of sight, out of mind. I don't want to look at where all of my time is going. I just want to say like, oh, the time is flying. I didn't do it. Oops, like. But
Thanks.
This kind of forces me to be a bit more honest with myself. It forces that looking at it is really important, I think. And it also opens up new options, because once you see it, you can see new options, right? So, but just don't get hung up on the technicalities of like, is it 11% or 15%, or what's the impact? Is it on the line or above the line? That's why you just kind of draw it in this visual graph, how it feels in the moment. And then, yeah, check back in. Yeah, the first time I did it, I used like colors to like move things when I felt more honest. I like used colored pens to like, okay, actually this one's over here and this one's actually over here. And really, I'm probably not doing anything in the high impact on a regular basis. Like that was my first honest examination for myself. So yeah.
I was just thinking as well, just talk about, as we're talking about the well-being here, not just the business, but also the well-being. Sometimes there are activities that we do that have a well-being feeling on ourselves, though it doesn't produce the results. Doesn't seem like a high impact and producing the outcome of the results for your business or for your coaching, whatever. However, it gives you a high sensation, high well-being feeling. How do you deal with that?
Like, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind when you say that for me is meditation, right? Because sometimes I cut that out of my schedule because it's like, oh, I don't have time for that. But then I would see the whole day, everything is less productive, right? So I could really put meditation into my high impact category, because for me, if I do the meditation, everything else in my day goes smoother, right? But it does take time. And sometimes I finish meditating and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just wasted half an hour. And it's just the energy you're coming from in that moment, right? So it's about getting honest and saying, was it really a waste? Was that really a waste? Or was it contributing to my well-being and contributing to my business? Because the rest of the day, I'm more likely to make better decisions and to use my time better because I took the time to do that well-being thing. And so for somebody else, it might be exercising or having a coffee with a friend even, or meeting with your own coach or therapist or counselor, or whoever that is. All of those things that we see as wellness, if we own a business, they also become part of our business, right? Because we are our business. If we are well, then our business is well. So it's like we have to really be honest with ourselves about, is it contributing or not? And maybe maybe you feel like scrolling Instagram in the morning is like really productive for you. Maybe you put that in your high energy, high impact. And then after a few weeks, you're like, wait a minute, maybe that wasn't really true. And you change it and see what feels different. It's all part of the journey. So anything you put on there is, if it's true for you right now, then it's perfect. But just be open to it changing. Yeah.
No, I agree with you, and I'm just sort of, as you're talking, it's all just sort of, it's coming over me, it's washing over me. And sometimes there are a lot of things that you do because you have to look after yourself. You are the vehicle that runs your business. So whatever that you do, your mental well-being, your business knowledge, and so on, is that you are, you're forming yourself, you're creating yourself. It's just sometimes, we do fall into that trap of easy rewards, quick rewards, and then we spend half an hour on Facebook or whatever it is, spending half an hour trying to think of what to write, something intelligent on LinkedIn, and then you think, God, I just spent half an hour doing that. What did I do that for? I could have done that half an hour. I could have done something more, something better, more useful. So yeah.
And it's just being aware of that energy, because some days maybe spending half an hour coming up with it is a good use of your time. Maybe that's what you wanted to do. Other days it might not be. Other days you might use ChatGPT instead.
There you are. Using your resources is all about energy and resources.
If it feels right. But another day you might say, no, I want an organic idea that came from my own, download. So you meditate instead and you use that idea. It's totally up to you. There's no right or wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I wanted to do with this group is to open up the floor and have you share and reflect on, what's come up for you. Is there anything that you are questioning? Like, am I making an impact in this area? Is this something I want to do less of, more of? Just open up the space for conversation. So whether we split into smaller groups or whether we use this group as that floor, I think that would be really interesting, because when I listen to other people sharing what they're going through, it always lights up things in me like, oh, wait, I also do that. Is that important for me too? Do I feel the same? Do I feel differently? Just gives other lenses to look at. So that's what I was hoping we could do together today, is just, share a little bit of ourselves and how we have interpreted this in our own daily life.
Yeah, we were talking about energy. We're talking about energy as a fuel, about what we put into ourselves, whether it's food or whether it's I don't know, exercise, sports, sleeping, resting, and all that kind of stuff. So if anyone, I don't know, Helena, what fuel do you put into your body through food, sleep, rest, relationships? I don't know, all the stuff that gives you fuel.
Wow, there are so many. Well, I was thinking also meditation. It fuels me a lot, and I do it every morning. I don't know, music, but music fuels me a lot, and I use it a lot when working, and I work differently when I have good music than when I don't. So I already know that it's important for my work energy, to keep my energy high, is to work with music. So yeah, it's going to be very different, but for me, those two things are quite important. Yeah.
What kind of music do you put on? Do you put on relaxing music? Do you put on music that actually activates you, energizes you? What kind of music?
Yeah, obviously it depends on the task, and it depends on the music that I have discovered on that period, so that I have periods with music and then I'm going to repeat the song. Like I drive people crazy when they are around because it's the same 3 songs or 2 songs in a loop, but they just put my energy on a high. So it can be really high speed music, like really, like I like rock and stuff like that. So it can be really like that. And on some occasions, if it's going to be more ambient music, kind of more relaxing music, if it fits with the activity, then I'm also going to be on a high because it makes me emotional. And so if I get emotional in a good way, not bad emotion, but in a good way, then my energy is so high that I am in flow. So the idea is to raise my energy, with emotion. Emotion is very important here.
Paul, how do you fuel yourself? Where do you top yourself up?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, especially today, because I woke up this morning, and Michelle and Kayla will know this, but I lay in bed at 6 o'clock doing PQ reps and just shifting my mind space, and decided, you know what, today to fuel myself, I'm going to go to Malaga, and I'm going to walk around in Malaga and go for lunch somewhere. I feel like I posted something yesterday about, keep going, pushing this boulder. But sometimes that boulder is like, his life is like, you got to play with me as well. I can't just be doing all the work here. So I'm taking time out. Maybe my ego needs to take time out from controlling everything to allow space for something else to step in. So how do I was listening to Helena. I can't do loud music, so I listen to Vivaldi. That keeps me nice and calm. Otherwise, I get very wired. So I need something that just calms me down. I have sort of on my roster to do exercises throughout the day. So instead of just doing one set, I'll do lunch at 12 o'clock. I'll do some yoga, and then I'll do some Pilates later, and I'll try and fit in a cardio, because that sort of mentally fuels me as well. You talked about things like Kayla was talking about meditation. I use a lot of binaural sounds and hypnosis. I can't meditate. I can't sit and meditate. So I need help. So I use sounds. So yeah, that fuels me. But today it's definitely like, okay, enough of me doing and controlling everything. I'm stepping away from it.
Yeah. Michelle, how do you top up?
Things like this, connecting with other people, is probably the highest impact, if that makes sense. It's a double whammy, because I see this high impact as value pot filling. That's what I'm seeing. It's like, that's what fills my values pots. What do I do? It depends on the day. Sometimes just sitting here watching the tree is enough to give you that that moment, because I see it all as intention. We are so on autopilot. So learning the positive intelligence model of just pausing. I feel myself getting derailed, and that moment of feeling derailed, I have a choice about how I feel my battery in that moment, whether that's just pausing, breathing, 2 seconds of rubbing my fingers together, these PQ reps that we keep talking about, or just, okay, so what am I doing? That fills my battery, because it then sets my intention. And if I've set my intention, it fills my values pot. So it's got to be battery charging. Does that happen every day? No, because we're on autopilot and we get distracted. Our mind chooses things to avoid because it feels better in that moment. But that's the intention. So it's about, like Kayla said right at the beginning, I see this as a model of me helping me get my house in order. Because that's how I see it. It's my house, getting my house in order. Because if that's in order, it's got to have an impact somewhere, invisible ones as well. Because that's where my mind went when we were talking about impact. A lot of the impact we have is invisible. how aware are we of even the potential of that invisible awareness? This event today is like an invisible impact. We come, we talk, we listen, we share. Now, where do you mark that as a priority of what percentage of impact? There's an impact from our experience in everything that we do. So yeah, that's why I'm thinking, how can I rate these experiences of whether they're having an impact? Because I'm the one who chooses that. So sorry, I've gone right round the whole circle there. Yeah, it's moment by moment, but just asking ourselves, are we going to, we know that we need to bring ourselves back into the moment, but it's whether we're being honest with ourselves or not, or just allowing ourselves to get derailed. So this is going to keep us railed, if that makes sense. So thanks for the talk, Kayla. Love it.
Does this ever happen to anyone where you actually plan the week or the activities and then realize that you've planned too much? And then it actually, you have a sense of, I do, a sense of overwhelmed thinking, oh my God. And it's been happening to me lately, much more, I don't know why, but I'm doing it and then I'm having to cancel it. And then I'm feeling really bad because I'm canceling it. And so I'm in a conflict where I'm trying to do things and I feel really good about it because I've got the whole week plan and activities here, there. And then I look, I think, oh God, I can't do all of that. Then I phone and I cancel all of this stuff. And then and then it's like this, trying to find the right balance of decluttering, you know, all of this stuff that's going on in the day. So to find the time to do a bit of meditation or just listen to some music, go for a walk, have a coffee, or maybe just, you know, maybe read a book, I don't know. Those kind of things that don't seem so important in the whole planning of the week, you know, everything else takes precedent. Do you feel that, Helena?
Yeah, I love what you're saying, because it made me think as well, kind of, we tend to feel like it's very valuable, or only valuable the doing. And that's when we fill up the agenda of the doing, and we forget the importance of the being. We don't talk about the being. What does that mean? But, you know, and that the being is those moments where we go for a walk. Well, let's say, Paul, if I understood correctly, you're going for lunch and you're just being, you just take your time with yourself. And then, so we forget that that's as valuable as just doing. And then, like Kayla said, the ego wants to be doing, it feels important. I'm doing. But it's also about being. So what does that look like for each of us is, yeah, to use this matrix, this cool matrix. I love it, Kayla. Thank you.
So we're talking about energy activities, you know, fueling ourselves, body, mind, and all that. So what kind of rituals, activities could we do, Kayla, to help us? If we look at rituals, you know, routines, planning, habits, whatever, can you give us some ideas?
Yeah, we can. But I was curious that Alessandro, did you also want to share? I feel like you didn't share about your what do you do for your?
I always have a very hard time with meditation. I just, you know, it makes me even more nervous if I try to meditate. It's I don't know if it's just me, or, you know, I have to get used to it. I don't know. I do know that what really like relaxes me, and not only that, I say that it helps me develop new ideas, is walk. I try to walk as much as possible, even 1 hour long walks, you know, 7 or 8 kilometers in an hour, and walking fast. For some reason, that clicks something in my mind, and I get all kind of ideas, and I even start talking to myself. And I mean, I don't mean talking into my head. I mean actually talking. And when I cross people looking at me strange, you know I am doing that, you know, and I realize I'm actually moving my lips. But that, you know, walking, the fact of walking really relaxes me, and especially if I walk, like, you know, in the nature, and not on the street. And that, it not only does it relaxes me, but it empowers me. It gives me more energy. And when I get back to work, my mind works in a totally different way. So that's what I do when I, to find new ways of recharging myself or finding new strategies or new ideas. Definitely. I've been doing that ever since I was like 14 or 15 years old, and that's a long time ago. And I've never quit and always done that. And I really enjoy it.
That's beautiful. From my definition, that is meditation. I mean,
Perhaps I'm meditating without knowing it. Yeah, sure.
yeah, I feel like meditation is really anything that brings us present into the moment where we're here in our body.
Okay,
Our minds are not in the future. They're not in the past. They're here.
Then we may call it meditation. Thanks,
Yeah.
I thought I was wrong somehow because I couldn't meditate, but now you're telling me this and I feel great.
Yeah, you're meditating every day since you were 14 or 15. So
Right,
you're already an
yeah,
expert.
Great. Great.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, and it's the same thing like that I would have said if you had told me I can never meditate. I would just recommend, do something that brings you into the present moment, where you feel your feet on the floor, where you, what the PQ reps we keep talking about, or we just feel our fingertips, just pay attention to one sensation. You listen, you hear, like, what's the closest sound I can hear right now, and what's the one farthest away? You just use our senses to come into the moment. And it's another way that you can do that in like 10 seconds, just to bring yourself into the here and now and activate that side of your brain that has these brilliant ideas that are activated when you're walking. So yeah, it's the same thing. So yeah, I feel like, Gary, for your question, this, what can people do? It's going to be different for everybody. It's really whatever brings you into that state where you feel you're connected. And by connected, I mean that you're connected to yourself and you're connected to the infinite flow of ideas that can come through you, right? So maybe that is going out in nature every day. Maybe for you, maybe you do that in the shower. Maybe you do that by cooking a good meal for yourself. Maybe you do that by reading a good book, whatever it is. Maybe you open a journal and start writing. It really depends on what works for you. So everybody has their own way, but I think it's important to notice, what am I doing in my day-to-day where I feel connected to myself, and do it intentionally, with the intention to connect and to be here and present in the moment. And it doesn't have to look like sitting with your, in the lotus position with your mudra and closing your eyes and meditating. It doesn't have to look like that. It can, but it doesn't have to, right? Can also be dancing, turning on loud music and just dancing all over your house. If that brings you into your body, then that's great. Why not? There's really no limits. So yeah.
I was just thinking of what brings me into the present is making a cup of tea. I was just sitting there. Yeah. I drink tea all day long. I don't know why. I always have a cup of tea. It's like a friend. It's like a cigarette. I don't smoke, so I have a cup of tea, and I don't drink it. Half of it's here, and then it's gone cold, and I have another cup of tea. And in the day, I might have like 6 or 7 cups of tea. And every time I have a cup of tea, it's there. It's warm. I feel that cup. The mug, it's not a cup, it's a mug, and it's a mug of tea, and I feel it warm, and it's my friend, and it's my company, and I can actually just relax and do other things, but it's there. So even something so simple as making a cup of tea, a mug of tea, could be an energy sort of activity.
Absolutely.
Energy fueling activity.
Yeah, taking the time to make it. And also, like you said, when you're holding the cup and you feel the warmth of it, it's just like doing those PQ reps, right? It's just using your senses, bringing yourself into the moment and just appreciating, even feeling gratitude for that. I have this warm cup in my hand, right? We don't even notice we feel that gratitude sometimes. We take it for granted, but especially if it's cold outside, we're like, oh, my warm cup, right? It's so great. And then when you sip the tea, if you notice, like, oh, it warms up my mouth, you feel it going down your throat, feeling warm. And it's like, it's a mindfulness activity. It's meditation. It doesn't have to be complicated, right? We don't have to have something in our schedule that takes 2 hours to recharge. It can be these tiny things that take 30 seconds, 1 minute. So that way, when our brain says, oh, you don't have time to recharge, you could say, no, I know you're wrong. I can do it in 30 seconds with just my sip of tea, or just my
I think it's just bringing it all to where you are, isn't it? Really thinking about it as well. Sometimes the activities that we do, because when you have to actually put time aside to do meditation, half an hour, or when you think, oh my, where am I going to find that time? It's actually bringing all these mindful activities, let's say, or energy fueling activities when you're driving, when you're walking, when you're drinking a cup of tea, or things that you do on a daily basis. It's always the problem when you have to add on other things to already a full schedule, and you think, wow, what am I going to do? When am I going to find the time to do that?
Mhm.
So
Yeah, or you can choose to change the how of how you do the task, right? So say you have to drive to work and it takes 30 minutes. You can say, you know what, while I'm driving to work every day, I'm going to be fully present. I'm going to be with myself as I drive. I'm going to notice new things on that drive. I'm going to see every green light and red light and not just zone out and somehow arrive at work like, oh, how did I get here? I was lost in my thoughts about last week the whole time. But suddenly I arrived, we decide to do the things we have to do with intention and be present while we are doing them. Maybe we decide I'm going to smile at 5 people in their cars on my way to work today and just see what happens. Or we just find ways to make the things we have to do anyway, just make them more fun and recharging, right?
yeah.
Even as a pedestrian, when people let me cross in the crosswalk, I like to smile and wave at them like, oh, thank you so much. You let me cross in the crosswalk. I'm not used to that after living in Asia. And they look at me like, well, it's kind of the law here, but I'm like, why not? It's fun. It's fun to do that.
I think it's also acknowledging or realizing it's an opportunity to be kind to other people. When you do have that opportunity to be kind, to actually take it, whether you're driving or whether you're in a bar getting a coffee and saying thank you, or not getting angry because you're having to wait because that bar, the bartender's running left, right, and center, and everyone just wants to be served. You have that opportunity. I think it's just being aware in that moment that you can be kind. You can do something for someone else.
Yeah, and see how that shifts your energy. Does it give you more energy when you're kind? Or does it cost you a lot of energy to be kind? That's also an interesting thing to know about yourself, right? Both are possible.
I'm taking my son to school in the morning and it's traffic and everyone is late. Everyone is running to work. Everyone's running to school. And I'll stop to let someone cross the road, or the traffic lights will be orange and I won't rush through it. I'll slow down. And my son will say, Dad, go. I said, well, it's orange. I said, well, just slow down. I said, just calm. We've given someone a chance to cross the road. Okay, well, we could have gone. So you have an opportunity to do something to be generous. Let's say generosity. Your generosity can come out in those moments, or not.
Yeah, Francesca is sharing in the chat. I listen to audiobooks when I drive. It helps me to relax myself also when I'm on city traffic. Nice. I can see both sides of the audiobooks. Like if it brings you more into the present, great. If it's distracting you from driving, not so great. So it depends on what it feels like for you, what the energy is. But yeah, if it works for you, then that's fantastic. Audiobooks are like an addiction for me. So I have to be aware of my intention when I turn on an audiobook. Am I turning on this audiobook to avoid something? Or am I turning on this audiobook with the intention to learn and grow from the book? Because I can use it in both ways. I don't know if any of you have that experience with certain activities where there are days when the same activity can be energy expanding, and the same activity can be like really just diminishing your energy depending on the intention when you do it. For me, audiobooks are like that.
I was reading somewhere about these energy fueling activities, and there are companies now that are having renewal rooms. They call renewal rooms. Rather than smokers' rooms, they have a renewal room where you go and you can refuel yourself in that space. So companies are now also understanding it's not just about competencies and knowledge, but it's also about your energy that's needed. So they're creating these spaces. I don't know which companies are so advanced, but anyway, this is the direction they're going, to create spaces for people to actually stop work, go in, sit down, whether it's relaxing music, whether it's this ambient with incense sticks or whatever, and then get them back into the work. Has anyone heard about this? Yeah, Paul?
Yeah.
Have you come across this?
No, I just had an image flash into my head of a mindfulness pod. You know, companies are doing things like, you know, if you understand your employees and you understand how people's minds work, you do realize that they need time out, and not everybody functions in the same function. So, yeah, no, I've seen, I can't recall, but I have seen it. I think it's companies like Google and, you know, Facebook and the like. I just, I'm looking at all of this and there's a little devil in my brain going, okay, but so I want to fill up all the high impact battery charging area. But I have a list of things, you know, like Gary was saying, you all make too big a lists for the week, and then because we like need to achieve and feel like we're driving ourselves forward. But then I think sometimes, you know, because that matrix you showed, Kayla, at the end, we want the ultimate is to have most of the things in the high impact battery charging area. And I'm thinking, but I want to reserve a few things for the low impact battery charging areas where I can go to that just makes the other things easier to do as well. Because I think there are things that I plan on a daily basis that are maybe low impact. For one thing, there may be low impact. Okay, that's where my thinking is going. If I'm thinking work, energy, love, something may be low impact for my work, but it gives me more energy. So it will fall into high impact battery charging. So it's just how you frame it. Okay. Sorry, I had to work that out loud, but thank you.
No, that's beautiful. I think, yeah, we all can reframe. You can make multiple of these charts. This is how it works for the impact in my relationships. This is how it works for the impact in my work. This is how it works for the impact in my physical fitness, you know, whatever it is. You can change it around and play with it. It's just a tool. So I like that you found that connection.
Yeah.
Cool.
The other connection I'm sitting here with is the Eisenhower matrix. I would be very curious to see if one actually sits and plots out this matrix with the Eisenhower matrix, where you would land. Because that's what you were talking about, Gary. You've got some things like with your business and stuff that may be not high impact battery charging, but they will fall into important and urgent to deal with at times where you don't necessarily want to deal with them. So it's also a case of recognizing that we might shift between two spaces and have to turn up.
It's having, Michelle, you got something to say? Michelle, you're going to say something?
No, it was just about the intention behind that, because there are going to be things that are urgent and important, and we're like, oh, wait, you know, not wanting to actually do them, but it's about it's sitting with that going, okay, so actually I've got a choice of how I see that. Is it good? Is it bad? Or is it just so again, it's always that in every single bit there's an opportunity, but it's about whether we're going to be honest with ourselves and do that, because that's how I see it. We're talking about wellness, and it's this allows us to incorporate that wellness into ourselves for our business at the end of the day. But it's about keeping it simple. If we're overcome things that are urgent and you know, we've got to do them right now, we've still got a choice about the intention and the mindset we put into that. And this is what this is showing me today, that actually, if not, I'm just you're lying to yourselves. If that makes sense. We've got the intention, and we can make, the word is keep it simple. It's allowing things to be quite simple. Yeah, make them simple, as Einstein said.
Yeah, it's like you said, Michelle, it's the how. Yeah, it's the how.
Yeah. No, because sometimes there are lots of activities like going around you, and the attention that you give to those activities, that's even like just a quick conversation, like 1 minute or 2 minutes. It's sometimes, I don't know, I could be having a meeting and a customer could drop in and they want to talk to me And in that moment, I have to understand to switch out from a meeting, go and talk to a customer, and then go back into the meeting. It's me at that point understanding that is that a low impact activity, speaking to the customer? Is it a high impact? And what kind of, how much energy should I be giving to that moment? Or is it the meeting that's the high impact? Should I be more energy here? It's being able to also manage those different situations, understand where is a high impact and where do I put all my focus?
That's a good point. I also saw where people use this to evaluate their actual meetings, their meeting agenda, and put every point on the agenda on this matrix and see. Sometimes they realize, wait, we don't actually need so many meetings, right? And sometimes they realize, no, these are really important meetings. We need to be more present and focused and in this time. But it's another, yeah, just the word meeting doesn't tell us really if it's going to be high impact or low impact, right? So we can all evaluate that as well.
Yeah, I think as Michelle said, making it simple, becoming more aware, understanding our interpretations of how we spend, where we spend our energy, how much focus do we give to those activities and so on. I think there's a lot there. But yeah, energy management rather than time management, because, you know, talk about time, you've got 24 hours. Energy, perhaps we can refuel with different activities in different, whether it's meditation or drinking a cup of tea or something like that. So there is definitely more to the energy management side than the time management side. If we look at it, you know, we can get more, we can extract more from the energy management side. So listen, we're coming to the end. What's the time? I make it 11 o'clock. Thank you all for being here. I've recorded this event, so it's gonna, I'll put it on my YouTube channel. So if you want to watch it, you want to use it or whatever, it's gonna be there. Kayla, thank you for coming and thank you for your insights. I mean, in an hour, half an hour, you can't talk a lot about this, but anyway, we have a better idea now. And thank you all for participating. Hopefully you're going to take some value away. And if you see these events on LinkedIn or whatever, and you want to share it, you want to bring someone else along, feel free. The more the merrier. Okay, so have a great day and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thanks,
Kayla.
Thanks,
Gary.
everyone.
Thanks,
you.
Kayla.
Thanks, Gary.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye.